Hello, Dr. Miaken Zeigler here of Zeigler Chiropractic. Welcome to today's topic as we dive into understanding the use of opioids in our country. And I think that, we're just ending or coming up on the end of the third quarter as we come into March of 2021, and we look at how 2020 and into 21 how the COVID pandemic has really shaped our world and has become really front and center. But we have to understand that life still is happening, and life still goes on even as we are quarantining and taking precautions, because there are still other things. And this was really a big conversation, probably 2020, 2019, diving into how the opioid crisis has really had major impacts on, our lives, whether it's personally or just how we deliver healthcare in this country. And so I want to bring it back to really talking about, the other things in healthcare aside from COVID, because those things are still going on. And as with anything, just to start the conversation, there's always in healthcare, when we're talking about our health, if there is a problem, we always are looking to what is the solution. And as we have this conversation today, I want you to be thinking about how are you approaching the solution to your health, to better yourself, to experience more vitality. Are we showing up in a reactive state, or are we more preventative? Are we looking ahead and trying to make choices that will allow us to better express health, right? So if we identify a problem, there's always a solution. Just are we intentional around that solution and the choices that we're making? And if we're looking at the problem being the opioid epidemic here in the United States, what is the solution? Because what currently is taking place is not working. So we'll get into a few other details when it comes to opioids, but typically prescription opioids are prescribed for moderate to severe pain after surgery or an injury, or for pain related to health conditions like cancer. It includes drugs like hydrocodone, oxycodone, codeine, and morphine. And risk can include misuse, addiction, overdose, and death, especially when used long term. We'll get into some specifics in a bit, but I want to bring it back to us here in the United States. Pain in America. More people live with chronic pain than cancer, heart disease, and diabetes combined. It's a pretty significant number. More than 30% of Americans are living with some form of chronic pain or severe pain. And we're talking about chronic pain. It's pain that never goes away. It leaves you hopeless, and the thought that this pain is never going to go away. It's potentially, impacting you in a way where it will never go away. It is a part of your life. And let's just define chronic. Chronic is something that has been around continuously for 3 months or more. So we're just talking 3 months. A lot of people that I know are experiencing chronic pain for years, maybe even decades, right? And when we talk about more people live with chronic pain, we all know the leading cause of death in the US is heart disease, right? And the second leading cause of death is cancer. But you take the number of people who have cancer, you take the number of people who have heart disease and diabetes, and you combine that, and you're still talking about more people who are dealing with chronic pain. So it's a real big problem. And how we've addressed it you know, is not working. And I love this story because I think the story gives us an idea of just the mindset of just the average American. This is a story out of the New York Times, written by a woman who she and her husband family moved to Germany, and she actually had to have a medical procedure in Germany. And this was her story and experience as to how to prepare pain management wise for this surgery and for healing. And so she had to have a hysterectomy. And because some of the what was going on in her body and would be particularly painful, she was really looking at how can I make sure I'm supported through pain management. So she first went to her gynecologist and asked, hey, let's talk about painkillers. I'm going to need something more than ibuprofen, right? That's something that I use for headaches, but I'm getting, an organ removed. I'm going to need something stronger. And the gynecologist told her, that's all you need, ibuprofen. It's all you need, you'll be fine. So she pursued it with the surgeon. Said, I am concerned I'm getting my uterus removed, and I'm thinking it's going to require some narcotics, to get me through those first few nights. And the surgeon said, no, you'll have ibuprofen. That'll be fine. And so she went to a third doctor and said, I'm going to talk to the anesthesiologist. And she approached the anesthesiologist, and this is what the anesthesiologist said. During surgery recovery, I would be given strong painkillers, but once I got home, the pain would not require narcotics. And this is what he said. Pain is a part of life. We cannot eliminate it, nor do we want to. The pain will guide you. You will know when to rest more. You will know when you are healing. If I give you Vicodin, you will no longer feel the pain, yes, but you will no longer know what your body is telling you. You might overexert yourself because you are no longer feeling the pain signals. All you need is rest. And please be careful with ibuprofen. Please be careful with ibuprofen. It's not good for your kidneys. Only take it if you must. Your body will heal itself with rest. Okay? A very different way to approach a surgery in healthcare that this woman is experiencing compared to here in America. I mean, I know people who have taken 8 to 10 ibuprofen a day during, this is a friend from college, taking 8 to 10 ibuprofen a day to get him through hockey season because of his normal aches and pains. And that was okay with his mom, who was a nurse. So this is just a very different approach to healthcare. So she went on, she had her hysterectomy, and she said, well, I took ibuprofen the first day. I took a couple of them just because I felt like I should take them. But she said she was uncomfortable, but she did rest, and she drank tea, and she drank all sorts of teas. And over the next couple of days, with the rest and listening to her body, she was able to heal and heal in a way that was really profound. And she checked back in with her doctor a week later, and she was given a clean bill of health in terms of her recovery. And this experience really made her question her approach in healthcare and what she chooses to do. I mean, she would talk about going home to America and loading up with those massive bottles of ibuprofen and aspirin that she would pick up at a Costco and bring them back over because she didn't have access to the ibuprofen. So again, just food for thought. Pain is a part of life. Pain is telling you something, right? If you step on a nail, you're going to want to know that nail is there, right? So you can remove it. You don't want to just address the pain and take some pain meds, right? So pain is there for a reason, and it's going to guide you and tell you what is supportive body-wise and what is not. And it's telling you you've got to do something differently. And so we cannot talk about opioids, and we cannot talk about, the epidemic that we have going on in the U.S. without first talking about the Sackler family. This was an article out of the New Yorker. Fascinating article. I'm happy to share it with you, but it talks about the family that built an empire of pain. And the Sackler family is made up of, well, 3 doctors, brothers. And, it's actually quite a saga, but if you were to, they made their millions of dollars, actually billions of dollars on Oxycontin. So according to Forbes, the Sacklers are now one of America's richest families with a collective net worth of $13 billion, more than the Rockefellers and the Mellons. And the bulk of the Sacklers' fortune has been accumulated only in recent decades. Yet the source of their wealth is to most people as obscure as that of the robber barons. And where they made their money was through their family business called Purdue Pharma, which is a privately owned company that developed a prescription painkiller, Oxycontin. And upon its release in '95, Oxycontin was hailed as a medical breakthrough, a long-lasting narcotic that could help patients suffering from moderate to severe pain. The drug became a blockbuster and has reportedly generated some $35 billion in revenue for Purdue. So again, when we look at Oxycontin, its active ingredient is oxycodone, which is a chemical cousin of heroin, which is up to twice as powerful as morphine. And in this really nice, interesting story and article, the author talks about how the way that the Sacklers marketed Oxycontin and created this, slogan around Oxycontin and really pushed their sales reps to, talk to and share Oxycontin with their doctors. It changed how we prescribed. Up until then, opioids were understood to be potentially highly addictive, to be used minimally and for acute scenarios. And with this massive advertising scheme that Purdue Pharma created, it really changed how, how we prescribed medications, and specifically opioids. The unfortunate thing is that when you look at, in the Sackler family, they made massive donations to a lot through art, but you'll see buildings with their names on it. They really have a positive name when it comes to some of the philanthropical endeavors that the family has initiated. And yet when you look at where the money has come from, it's come on the backs of death and heartache, and creating an addiction epidemic in the United States. So again, I find this to be interesting read. I'm happy to share it with you if you'd like. So I highlighted a few things, and this came from David Kessler, former commissioner of the Food and Drug Administration. He said, "Few drugs are as dangerous as the opioids. Since 1999, 200,000 Americans have died from overdoses related to Oxycontin, other prescription opioids. Many addicts finding prescription painkillers is too expensive or too difficult to obtain, and they turn to heroin. And according to the American Society of Addiction Medicine, 4 out of 5 people who try heroin today started with prescription painkillers. And the most recent figure from the CDC suggests that 145 Americans now die every day from an opioid overdose. Now, breaking that down to 145 per day, what is that within the hour? That means every 10 minutes we have somebody who is dying of an opioid overdose. So pretty significant numbers here which is worth looking at. Okay, we know that there's a problem with chronic disease, or excuse me, chronic pain. What is the solution? And currently the solution is not working. Again, going back to Purdue Pharma, they really promoted Oxycontin as the drug to start with and the drug to stay with. What research is showing is that as little as four tablets of Oxycontin can leave you addicted to the drug. 4. And so again, I think when we go to our doctors, when we have a problem, I think this is really the issue, is that we aren't necessarily given the whole picture, right? We're given these prescriptions or recommendations for use to help address problem or pain, but we don't necessarily know long-term impacts of taking those. We think that, our doctors are, they have our best interests at heart, but with anything we take, there are and can be detrimental impacts to, to our health. And again, the doctor isn't the bad guy, but where are they getting their information from? And if it's this, company who has really looked at creating number one, an advertisement and product to push, to start with and stay with, that is a big money maker, and it has to go through a doctor. That's where it's a problem, right? So Oxycontin, the drug to start with and to stay with, no, not the drug to start with and to stay with. And when we start with it and stay with it, this is what happens. This is the national overdose deaths that we have here, and you're showing from 2002 to 2016, projected 2017. And you can see the green line is male, yellow line is female, but it's been going significantly up, over the years. Hasn't changed. Let me just take a moment here. I want to show you some other stats that we have with opioids. I want to share a different screen here. Let's see. Let's share. Let's share this one here. Where's my PDF? Sorry guys, I'm having some challenges with sharing, figuring out what I want to share. Let's start with this one here. Okay, we're gonna go to this one. Okay, so this came out of Life Chiropractic College West, a Dr. Dan Murphy, and I just want to give you some of the research that has come out around opioids. So opium is from the poppy plant, but when we're talking about opiates like morphine, codeine, they are purified directly from opium without modification. When we're talking about opioid, it refers to a synthetic form of opium. And it's been understood the dangers of opium use by governments and medical providers for more than 6,000 years. And again, around that 1995 timeframe, 1996, when different information came out, really largely due to the Sackler family, that's when things really shifted and changed. I found it to be interesting is fentanyl is the deadliest drug in America, and it is 50 to 100 times more powerful than morphine, right? So if you are prescribed these medications, once you want to know the potential impacts if you're taking them long term. Again, about 1 in 500 people who take opioids for chronic pain will be dead from opioid-related toxicity in an average of 2.5 years. Higher prescription opioid drug dose is associated with greater pain intensity, more impairments in functioning and quality of life, poorer self-efficacy for managing pain, greater fear avoidance, and more healthcare utilization. So when you're talking about higher dosing of opioid drugs, those outcomes are not great. And it can produce mood change, drowsiness, mental clouding, nausea, vomiting, constipation. So it can impact and cause really some significant stress to, to our health and well-being. I know I'm just rocking through some of these slides, but I just want to get back to some of the other details that I want to cover today. More than 1/3 of US civilians, non-institutionalized adults, reported prescription opioid use in 2015, with substantial numbers reporting misuse and use disorders. And what's unfortunate with, when we talk about the Sackler family, because they have been taken to court, is that a lot of times when they see these, when we're seeing these overdoses, the Sackler families is really saying, the individual is just not taking it appropriately. They're not following our instructions. Well, again, it's been through the veil of, this is a safe, completely safe drug, follow the recommendations, and yet you take 4 and, potentially are totally addicted. So about 80% of people who use heroin first misused prescription opioids. Let's sit with that for a second. 80% of people who are on heroin right now are on heroin because of a prescription drug. It's pretty sad to think about that statistic. Again, when you are experiencing chronic pain, you're willing to do anything, right? But it has its cost when we are utilizing, utilizing what we think is okay because it's recommended by our doctors. We think it's safe. So this is the stat that I just shared, but 8 out of 10 people who die of drug overdoses were prescribed it by a medical doctor because of musculoskeletal complaints. This is in Ohio. No, excuse me, 8 out of 10 were prescribed, prescription for some health concern. 6 of those 8 are due to a musculoskeletal complaint. So this is where I, as a chiropractor, have to look in the mirror and say, am I doing everything I can to share what I know about how we can help support the body? I mean, chiropractic is much bigger than musculoskeletal pain, much bigger than low back pain, headaches, neck pain. But guess what? We're pretty dang good at supporting and helping a body recover from those conditions and those concerns. Now, those people, you who choose to stick around and get chiropractic care more consistently because you want to be proactive and preventative and experience health and vitality in a whole another way, right? You know that chiropractic can be much more significant and impactful in your overall health. But again, the average person doesn't know that. And I have to look at myself and say, am I doing everything I can to share what I know, right? Because it's not okay. So again, the problem, people in chronic pain, and our solution has been to medicate and kill the pain. And the results, we get death by opioid overdoses, and it is not working. So we've got to do something else. There's got to be another solution. Now, there are states who are taking action. Ohio actually filed a suit against the pharmaceutical companies, which is a big deal because the reason that you have these drugs available is because the FDA approved it, right? So their solution was to file a lawsuit against these drug companies, because of the death and the overdoses that were happening. So in Ohio, they filed a lawsuit against 5 drug companies for aiding opioid crisis. Ohio providers should first consider non-pharmacological and non-opioid therapies before prescribing opioids, which is a big deal. In West Virginia, they mandate that chiropractic care and other alternative modalities, but chiropractic care, I believe, is in that, must be utilized before opioid prescriptions are rendered. And then in New Hampshire found that when chiropractic care was utilized, there was less opioid usage, but significant improvement in chronic pain and low back pain. So again, there are states who are taking action to address the opioid crisis. And is there something that is less intensive, less aggressive, less side effects, less chance of death in terms of a solution? So I want to share this with you because there's got to be a different solution. And that's one of the reasons why I do workshops, is because you who are coming in here and getting chiropractic care, you're choosing an alternative, right? You're choosing something differently, but it takes you becoming a more informed consumer. You've got to make different choices. You've got to ask questions. You've got to be a critical thinker. And when you're a critical thinker, there's availability to you in terms of how you experience life. And I like this clip from Tony Benn. He's a British politician, and he shares some interesting things from a documentary called Sicko. So I want to make sure that you guys can hear me. So when I share the screen, I'm going to make sure that, let's see, share sound. Yes. Share. Okay. So let's hit play.
This idea of choice, which Capital talks about all the time, you've got to have a choice. Choice depends on the freedom to choose. And if you're shackled with debt, you don't have a freedom to choose.
It seems like it benefits the system if the average working person is shackled with debt.
And people in debt become hopeless, and hopeless people don't vote. So they always say everyone should vote. But I think if the poor in Britain or the United States turned out and voted for people who represented their interests, it would be a real democratic revolution. And so they don't want it to happen. So keeping people hopeless and pessimistic. See, I think there are two ways in which people are controlled. First of all, frighten people, and secondly, demoralize them. An educated, healthy, and confident nation is harder to govern. And I think there's an element in the thinking of some people. We don't want people to be educated, healthy, and confident because they would get out of control. The top 1% of the world's population own 80% of the world's wealth. It's incredible that people put up with it, but they're poor, they're demoralized, they're frightened, and therefore they think perhaps the safest thing to do is take orders and hope for the best.
Well, isn't that aren't those words to just sit with? Poor, hopeless, demoralized people, frightened people are just okay with taking orders and hoping for the best. That's what we're here to change, right? We're here to change and support a more educated community, a more informed consumer, somebody who can critically think and decide what is best for them and say, I want more than what the average person is experiencing. I want better, because what's average out there is not okay with me. And I think that clip especially can relate to what we've been experiencing over the last year, right? We have been so scared, right? Scared to be around our fellow neighbors, our community, our fellow human beings, scared of a virus, socially isolated, even using the term socially isolated, right? Really, it should be physically isolated. Being uninformed on what you can do to support the health of an immune system, how you can equip your body and your health, your immune system, that if you are exposed to COVID or you're not exposed to COVID, it doesn't matter because your body is healthier because you know the things to do. Take vitamin D, selenium, vitamin C, melatonin, right? I've talked about those conversations. But if we are tuned into what is shared with on TV, they share this frightening message. it's hitting us over and over and over. That becomes our lens, and we are frightened. We become hopeless. We become demoralized, and then we just wish for the best with whoever's leading us. It starts with you today. You can change what's going on in your world, and it starts with the choices that you make. And so I am challenging you to look in the mirror and say, what can you do today? And by you showing up and listening to this conversation just for 30 minutes, it is giving you the opportunity to be more accountable and to look at the solutions that you're choosing, right? What you're choosing to do to, address the problems going on in your world. And if we're talking about health and well-being, guess what? By coming and getting adjusted is one of the first big steps you can do. Have a better brain-body connection so you're ready to receive the world and better integrate all of the things that are around you, better integrate it and have executive function for that. But you're probably going to be making good choices when it becomes when we talk about movement and nutrition and hydration and connecting with those you love, right? So it starts with you. And how can you share the information that you know? Because again, there's a lot of people out there who are experiencing health less than, experiencing the world less than. And all it takes is to get connected and to get the right information. And a spark of hope it can make all the difference. Our founder, Dee Dee Palmer, his son, BJ Palmer, who really was impactful in marketing and sharing chiropractic and expanding chiropractic. He is quoted saying, "You never know how far-reaching something you think, say, or do today can affect the lives of countless millions tomorrow." So what are the words you're using? What are the actions you are taking? What are the things you are thinking right now to support health and vitality in all things, whether it's your body and physical health, whether it's your work life and your purpose, whether it's your family life, right? In all things, what are you thinking, saying, and doing? And how could it impact the lives of millions tomorrow, right? Or maybe it's your family or your work environment. So there's hope, and you can make the difference. And I'm so grateful that you're here. Again, I'm Dr. Miaken Zeigler. There's tons of information on and facts related to opioids. If you want to dive into the history and really understanding how it became, what it is today, I've got all of these great resources. But where do we go from here? That's really the question. So I appreciate you, and I look forward to seeing you at our next workshop. So love and light to you. Take care, and we'll see you next time.